This is Dr. with CMN presenting Brock on Talk on Birthmark. So, hey Brock, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking.
So, tell me a bit about yourself.
About myself, 48, always been a photographer. I've been a photographer for 25 years. I basically now work with charities and organisations to raise body positive awareness for a plethora of worthy causes, educating people and celebrating diversity.
So, tell me a bit about your work, your photography. What all do you do recently?
Okay, so I started out in fashion and then went into advertising. And about 10 years ago, my wife is Australian. We were living in Sydney, and I was approached by an ad agency to do a portrait series on the diversity in skin. And the project actually never happened because it was going to cost about $20 million to do, and they didn't have the funding. But what it taught me was that I was sort of tired of doing advertising, and I wanted to do something more in line with work that had more of a purpose, and I felt I had the skill set to do that. So I moved back to the UK in 2013 with my young family at the time, who were growing up way too fast. And I embarked on a series for a friend's skin cancer charity in Australia called Beard Season, which is now called Skin Check Champions. So they're basically raising awareness and giving skin checks to Australians. Obviously, the sun out there, I lived out there myself for 10 years, is extremely harsh. And men between 18 and 45 are very susceptible to melanomas. So that was the first series I embarked on. And after that, I felt I was finding a happy place with my work. So since 2013, I now do a series that generally lasts for about 24 months. So I have done a series on freckles, a series on vitiligo. I did a commission series for CMN through Caring Matters Now, which is an incredible UK-based charity for CMN birthmarks. And now I am currently in the middle of a series on scars, which basically covers absolutely everything from accidents, medical, self-inflicted burns, everything else in between. So I work from home. I work under extremely simple conditions now, and people apply for the series via email, through Instagram, and everybody travels to my home in southeast London for their portraits. And the aim is to try and exhibit at the end of the series. Other aims are to educate people that aren't aware of various conditions. Another aim is to show diversity and minorities in a beautiful, non-medical way, and to celebrate everybody, just humankind, because we're all made from the same cloth, as it were. You know, it's just different strands of it. So hopefully that will give you a slight insight to what I do these days.
If the viewers, they want to be photographed by you, if they have a special condition, if they want to get photographed by you, so can they approach you?
Yes, I mean, obviously this is my job. So I'm either commissioned by a charity, so they will commission me to do a series as we did with the CMN, or if I'm commissioned by a charity, I will then generally embark in a personal series, which kind of is paid for by me being paid by another charity, if that makes sense. So I have to, when I'm working on a series, as I am with Scars currently, I only work on that as a series, because otherwise it gets a little bit confusing. So I just need to open that up. So I'm available for private commissions. So if people want to hire me for a series for themselves, then obviously they can email my studio at Mr. Elbank, which is on my contact at Instagram. And then we can, and then what I get people to do is send some recent color reference selfies in, just because I need to basically see what people look like. It's nothing more than I need to get in my head how I'm going to approach, because everybody's different. So it's really that simple. So for instance, with with beard, with freckles, vitiligo, CMN and scars, people email the various email addresses and they get an automatic response email with a list of instructions explaining how the series works, what they need to do. And when people apply, there's no right person or wrong person for a series. It's just about getting as much of a cross section of diversity as possible, because as I said when I did the freckles series, if I photographed 100 people with red hair, really white skin and freckles and green eyes, it would get a little bit repetitive. So for me, it's all about getting as broad a selection of subjects for that subject as possible.
So, can you tell the most memorable moment from your photo shoots, one of your photo shoots?
Most memorable moment or moment, did you say? I mean, that's a tough question to answer, because that's like saying, which is your favourite child? I mean, what springs to mind is a girl called Elizabeth Soph, who's she's 7 now, who I shot last summer, so about a year ago, for Scars. Elizabeth's mum, Sinead, who's a nurse, got in contact with me and said she had a daughter who had survived horrific sort of accident with a faulty air conditioner when she was only sort of 6 months old. So she sent me some photos of Miss Cheeky Pants, as I call her, because she's the most amazing, confident young woman I've ever met in my entire life. And this was during the first or second lockdown here in London. And Elizabeth came down with a couple of siblings who went for a walk, and Sinead and Elizabeth and I got on with doing their portrait series. And I've got to say, everybody that I photograph is exceptional in their own way. They've all defied medical science, mental health challenges, physical health challenges, and near-death experiences. And Elizabeth was, for her very young years, and I don't mean to be condescending, she's just an exceptional human being who lives life in a very simple, straight to the point kind of way. But she is destined for greatness as she gets older. I mean, she is just an incredible person. So Elizabeth jumps out from recent times, but I'm very fortunate that I get to meet people from all over the world who had, car accidents, been electrocuted, been, run over, they've had, have had heart replacement, all these, very, very challenging things. And they come to me and, we talk, they explain, they open up. And it's a very empowering, enriching experience for me. And I think it puts life into perspective, especially in the global current climate with COVID and what have you. But yeah, we'll say Elizabeth for now. But everybody's special.
What are your views about body differences?
I think that the media, especially in Western society, plays a massive role in unobtainable standards for especially women, young women and teenagers or pre-teens. And I think that, in my opinion, body differences, I'm fascinated by people, and the more unique or different or whatever you want to, however you want to label it. I don't like putting labels on things, but I'm infatuated by just the more diverse the subject matter there is. And I think that body differences are something that I try to document in such a way that we celebrate everything, because people are, the general public can be very ignorant to someone's appearance and judge and comment and or fear because they just don't know. And I think if with the work that I do with various organisations and all the subjects that I work with, the simple point is to tell their journey, explain why they look how they look, how they've overcome the challenges in their life, and just explain to people on social media that, we're all the same. As I keep saying, when I did Vitiligo as a series, I photographed a lady from the Caribbean, or Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it, who was born a black woman. And when I photographed her, her skin was whiter than mine. She was she'd lost all her skin pigment. Okay. Now, for my own visual work, I am in awe of how she looks. But when I spoke to this woman, she is explaining to me how she felt she was losing her ethnic identity. She's explaining to me that people in her own country are pushing her away because she's now white and she doesn't fit in with their culture. And, it's challenging and very sad to hear that people go through these stages in life. I also documented a woman from the Netherlands who has Indian heritage. Again, her skin was incredible. I mean, it was like a blue porcelain white, and she literally had just 2 patches of her pigment on her cheeks. I mean, amazing looking woman, just beautiful. But again, 15 years, 20 years ago, she had all of her pigment, and it is this permanent challenge, this fight against society where, the individual is struggling to find their identity because it's changed so dramatically. People are quick to judge. People don't understand. People comment, and it's hard enough for that person to have to live day to day, seeing this gradual change in their appearance that they're unable to control.
Yeah.
So to have strangers on the street or friends or even family make it harder for them, I just don't understand that.
So do you have any advice for the people with or without body differences? You want to say anything to the people without body differences? As you know, as I also have a giant CMM. So many people approach me, ask too many questions. Even I was bullied in my childhood. And same happened with the people who have scars, vitiligo. Many of the differences the people have, they have to face the same thing. So do you have any advice for the people without body differences as well as with the body difference?
I do. I've got lots of advice. First of all, to answer your question, when my wife Sarah was pregnant with our first child, I mean, she was beautiful when she was pregnant. She glowed. But one thing I noticed was that strangers would come up and just touch her bump, not even ask. And it was this invasion of privacy. Okay. And the reason I'm saying this is that every single person that I photograph, whatever their condition, whatever their experiences, whatever's happened, there is a common thread with every single one. And that is that people have stared, people have commented, people have judged, people have made fun, they've been cruel, they've invaded their space, they've just come up or made them feel uncomfortable. And my advice is that I see being different, if you want to call it that, a strength. Okay. When you're a child, all you want to do is fit in. My 12-year-old and my nearly 10-year-old daughters, all they want to do is kind of be part of this pack, the team. And as I try and explain to them, it is being an individual, having your own, dancing to your own drumbeat, as it were, is a real strength. So whether you've got red hair or freckles or vitiligo or birthmarks or, port wine stain birthmarks or whatever it is, use that to your advantage, because the reality is all children and adults, everybody has insecurities. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are in the media's eye or fashion's eye or whatever you want to call it. Every single person has an insecurity. Okay. My hair all dropped out when I was 19, 20. It's never bothered me. I'm 5'7". I'm not a tall man. On paper, I'm short and bald, but it doesn't bother me because it's not something I can change. And I know these things aren't, they don't affect my physical day-to-day life, but there's plenty of men that are paranoid about losing their hair. So what I sort of say to everybody that comes to my home and I photograph them is that when I listen to them, and they all have their own journeys, their own stories and experiences, but they all have had similar experiences, and it's ignorance. And that is the one thing. And I say that it's very easy for me to say, don't listen to people. But what I do tell people is embrace what you have and make it a positive. Okay, because a lot of what people have, you can't change. You're either born with it or an accident's happened. You have to make the best of what you've got. Okay, we all do. And if someone is saying something to you, it's probably out of the fact that they don't understand, they're scared, they're confused, or they're just an idiot. Probably the latter.
Thank you. Thank you so much for so good words. So I appreciate your thinking and also your work. And thank you so much for the interview, Brock. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Hopefully we'll talk again. Have a good evening.